Well, I recently finished a book named Animal Vegetable Miracle. It's by Barbara Kingsolver, who is a American novelist. I've read many of her books. They're excellent. And this book, written in 2007, is actually not a novel. It's sort of a journal of her and her family's life during their first year in their farm in Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains. I've enjoyed this book over and over again for many years, and I always find something different about it at each stage of my life. So the book opens up with Barbara Kingsolver's family deciding to leave Tucson, Arizona, where they have been for many, many years, I think 20 years. So we're speaking about Barbara Kingsolver, her daughter, 18-year-old daughter, I think she had another daughter who was 9 or 10, and her husband. And they moved to Virginia, to this little town in the Appalachian Mountains, and it is a farm that her husband had bought years before they were married, and they'd spent several summers up there in the little cabin. There's also a farmhouse that they were renting out, and during their time up there, when they'd go for the summers, they'd grow food and kind of met people and had like a separate life there several months out of the year. They decide to go move there permanently. And part of the reason that they were leaving Tucson is because they became more and more aware of how unsustainable life is in a desert town where everything has to be trucked in, nothing grows there, even water. And they just decided it was time for a change. So this book is about that first year of living a way more sustainable life, and how they live it is they decide their food habits were going to take precedent over all their other habits. And what that meant is that they were going to be purchasing things locally or growing them themselves, and locally means within the county or one or two counties around. And whatever they couldn't get locally, they were probably not going to eat. There were some exceptions made for coffee and I think oatmeal and a couple things that they couldn't find made or produced locally. But for the most part, they did, I'd say, most of their food habits and eating habits were literally by the season. So the book traces that year-long journey, and along with the journey of them creating this life for themselves with home cooking and with growing food and with preserving food, Barbara Kingsolver kind of focuses on different elements of the agricultural tradition in this country. The book starts, I think, in March or April, something like that, in the springtime. So she talks about the whole seed industry, because it's the time of planting, and bioengineered seeds and Monsanto, and gets into all of that. And so she goes through the whole year like that, focusing on different elements and aspects of agriculture in this country and what they were doing and what the country was doing and all sorts of things. There are also many delicious seasonal recipes throughout the book. So in the spring, for example, when they started, there was not a lot of available fresh produce at that point, and they hadn't been there long enough to create like canned stuff and dry stuff, so they had their own like store of things. So they kept food very simple. They did have chickens, and so one of the recipes is a frittata with asparagus, because they had planted asparagus some years before, and some greens, and that's kind of how the book went. Every month, every season, whatever was in season, that's what they were eating, that's what they were preserving, that's what they were creating recipes around. They talk a lot about the turkey industry around Thanksgiving, and one of the daughters decides to start her own poultry business. They did have chickens, so she starts her own poultry business and sells eggs to save for a horse. And so the year goes. The last story in the book focuses on turkeys. I guess they had purchased a bunch of turkeys at one point, and some they had slaughtered. That was also a chapter in the book, was right before Thanksgiving, doing a slaughter of chickens and turkeys with some friends of theirs and how that went. but they kept some turkeys over, and they were a big-breasted type turkey that was a classic Thanksgiving turkey. They realized that these birds, these turkeys, did not know anything. They didn't know how to breed. I mean, I guess there's an artificial insemination that they do with turkeys. So the male turkeys and the female turkeys, all this had been kind of bred out of them, and they didn't know how to relate to each other to even fertilize the eggs. And then once the eggs had dropped, whether or not they were fertilized, the mother turkeys didn't know enough to sit on the eggs. So the final chapter talks about that, how they sort of watch the turkeys going through mating actions without actually knowing how to mate, and turkeys laying eggs here, laying eggs there, until one turkey finally got a clue and sat on those eggs and hatched them. But it was almost like the turkey had some sort of vestigial memory from multiple generations before, because none of the turkeys had done anything like this in turkey generations. It just was not left up to chance anymore. If you're selling turkeys, you want to make sure they breed, you want to make sure more turkeys come out, and you want to make sure the turkeys come out in time to be slaughtered for Thanksgiving or whatever, and there's no room for things going wrong there. So that's the sort of thing that she talks about, the tomato harvest, the high point of the harvest, trying to make a pumpkin soup inside the pumpkin for Thanksgiving, all this stuff they've raised themselves. The vendors, they have gone to the farmers markets. At one point, one chapter is devoted to some time they spent with some Amish friends of theirs who have a multi-generational farm and how that works. Another chapter, she and her husband go for an anniversary trip to Italy. They talk about Italian food and sustainability and eating and cooking in Italy. And at one point, she's able to harvest some seeds to take back with her to the United States from this huge winter squash that she had picked up at some point. She carried the seeds all over Italy, trying to get them to dry before they got moldy from hotel room to hotel room. So I think I have always enjoyed this book because I enjoy the writing style of it. It's very smooth, it's very easy. She gets a lot of points across about nutrition and food costs and how much of our gasoline that we produce and use in this country goes towards transporting food. So that's the sort of conversation she has with the reader. And now I'm a person who I'm growing my food here. I've always been kind of conscious of food, but not tremendously conscious. Try to do the best I can. I've always been not 100% scratch cooker, but I've always cooked a lot of things from scratch. And of course, I'm trying to grow my own food here now. There's many ways that I fall short of what I'd like to be and what I'd like to do. And I understand both sides of this. This book was written in 2007, and it's a very different landscape than where we are right now, even though it's been less than 20 years. I think it's both easier and harder to eat well. It's certainly more expensive. I mean, everyone talks about Monsanto and bioengineering as if it's a bad thing. On the other hand, it's enabled us to get food, which is a great deal cheaper. So this is a great book if you're just interested in reading about a family's life in the Appalachian Mountains and about their home gardening and about all the great recipes they made and how the whole year kind of wound up. They do have the recipes and things online. Also, I believe the website is animalvegetablemiracle.com, so you can look for them there, and they have some more updates on things they're doing. I think they're still involved in the whole sustainable and organic food movement, which is great. Again, I enjoy this book. I read it all the time, and this time what I read into it is that there's two worlds here. There's the world of sustainable food and wonderful home cooking and getting beautiful vegetables that are in season. And that runs parallel to the fact that people are exhausted, they have no time, and our money's not going very far, which gives us the need for a very different sort of lifestyle than this beautiful bucolic lifestyle which is happening in this book. On the other hand, there are plenty of people who are living on farms and doing farmers markets and that sort of thing, and I'm happy for them. I know I'm a big Costco shopper because I can get what I need at a reduced price or at a really good price, an unbelievably good price, which is important to me. So, if you're interested, it's in all libraries. I have seen it all over the place. I should get my own copy again at some point. This is a library copy. I've borrowed copies. I think they have it in ebook form. As a matter of fact, I think it's on Kindle Unlimited. I saw it. Not by Barbara Kingsolver, but the same book with another author's name on it. Oh, it was kind of weird, but I did look at it and it seemed to be the same book. So anyway, I'd like your thoughts. From what I told you, what do you think about this sort of lifestyle? Is it sustainable for you? Is it something you'd like to do but you can't afford to do it? Something you'd like to do but you don't have time to do it? All of those are valid. There's no wrong answers here. What do you think about food and eating and where your food comes from and how much it costs? I mean, what are the thoughts there? I am doing a lot of home cooking now. I've completely eliminated all processed food outside of sauces and things like that I can't replicate at home. And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So, I loved reading about these recipes and all that sort of stuff, but it's like, who has time to do that? Who has time to do all those dishes? Who has time to do all that? Well, right now I have time to do all that, but I'm living by myself, and it's only for me, and I can make, I'm not trying to cook for other people. So again, your thoughts. Have any of you read this book? Do any of you have any thoughts on the book, even without reading it, on the whole food thing? I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching.